Welcome back. Time for the Politics Fix. We got some experts here tonight. Jonathan Capehart is an MSNBC contributor. He's also a writer on the editorial page of the Washington Post. And Matt Taibbi, an extremely popular fellow these days. He's editor of the Rolling Stone, of course. And he's author of The Great Derangement. Let's dig into the mystery surrounding the AIG bonuses, who knew what and when, and who's going to get hit with this. Matt, you first. Who's getting burnt the hottest on this? Who's going to walk away with scalding burns throughout their career because of what happened the last couple of weeks with these bonuses of up to $165 million going to people who look like they don't deserve them?
You know, I don't know that any politician in particular is going to get burned all that badly. I think it's just important that that the policy is reversed. I mean, this hasn't been a secret. We've known since I was doing interviews about these bonuses back in January. This was a news story back then. So I don't know why.
Well, the president said he was stunned by this on Leno last night. He was stunned. You weren't. You knew.
I don't know how anybody or Secretary Geithner also said he was stunned. But this was on CNN back in in January, right after the New Year. So I don't know how anybody was surprised by this. This has been news for 3 months.
The president's stunned. Geithner said he didn't know till last week in full, which is an interesting cover.
Right.
I didn't know the full extent. It's like I didn't know exactly.
Scope,
I didn't know how much I had to pay in taxes till I paid them all. Then I realized how much I had to pay. But you knew you're going to have to pay taxes.
Right.
You know.
I didn't know how pregnant I was. Exactly.
Oh, well, that's a thought.
Hello.
Not you. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I think there are two people who stand to get burned in this. I think it's Senator Dodd because of the mix-up he's gotten into, the dust-up between him and the White House, between him and Treasury about this provision that he wrote.
So he writes a provision saying you can't have bonuses if you're getting TARP money. Then he's told, according to him and according to Geithner, Treasury officials came to his staff and said you got to grandfather in or exempt people who already had contracts signed. And he said okay, and for that.
And for that, it comes out, and now he's catching all kinds of grief back home in Connecticut. And this is a guy who everyone saw as being vulnerable already going into re-election next year. And so this doesn't help. And the other person who stands to come out of this scalded or burned, as you say, I think, is Treasury Secretary Geithner. There's no way around it. This is a guy who
is his goose cooked already? I don't. Has he got a time fuse? Let me ask you, Matt, up in New York, do you have a sense that this guy, a New York fella, has got a limited life politically?
Well, I think it's going to be very, very hard for him to disentangle himself from this mess because, remember, before Geithner was the Treasury Secretary, he was the head of the New York Fed, and he was intimately involved with the AIG bailout that key weekend. He was there that entire weekend. There were hundreds of investment bankers pouring through the AIG books, so all of this stuff was known. This was in the company's SEC filings. He surely knew about everything that was going on in AIG, so he's going to have absolutely no deniability when it comes to this
Matt,
stuff.
you're up in New York, uniquely qualified to answer this. There is one winner in this one, and that's Andrew Cuomo, the AG up there.
Sure.
The Attorney General of New York is hot on this case. He's had a reputation as a trust buster already, a reformer. He's knocking the hell out of AIG. He's asking for the list of people who got the bonuses.
Right.
He's really showing some strength as a public official. He could be governor in a couple of years because of this, right?
Well, I mean, sure. This is a no-lose issue for any kind of politician who's going to go after this stuff. I mean, this one tiny unit, AIG-FP, was basically responsible for blowing up the universe. They made a $440 billion bet with money they didn't have, and now they're trying to take bonuses from a company that's, taken $160 billion of taxpayer money. They're the most, politically unpopular people on the planet right now, and to be on the other side of that is going to really help a politician like Cuomo, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know if Andrew Cuomo is going to run for governor in 2 years. I think that would require the current governor, David Paterson, to say he's not running.
Right. You think he wouldn't challenge you for renomination?
Oh, no. And I say this because Andrew Cuomo ran against H. Carl McCall,
sure,
African American,
but then pulled out.
Cuomo pulled out.
Right.
And then Carl McCall lost. And Cuomo spent the next 2 years repairing relationships around New York State, and particularly with the African-American community, because of what he did. So I don't think he wants to go a round two.
Do you want to bet? I say he runs. I say he runs. Gentlemen's bet. We're going to be right back to talk more about this.
Nice.
No. Gentlemen's bet, is that fair?
Okay.
I can end on that point. It's for drama. You know, end a segment with some drama. Me and Jonathan Capehart, this young fellow with all the brains, thinks that Andrew Cuomo's not running for governor, and I do. We'll be right back with Matt Taibbi and Jonathan Capehart, two smart guys. You're watching Hardball as we approach the end of the week.
Now, when is the dog coming? I keep hearing about the dog. It seems to me, when was the dog supposed to be there by? Wasn't it? I thought it was like as soon as they moved in.
Listen, this is Washington. That was a campaign promise.
Oh, wow. Wow. Man.
I'm teasing. The dog will be there shortly.
Oh, sure.
We have actually sort of been laying the groundwork here. We've got a trip. I've got to go to the NATO summit. When we get back, dog will be in place.
We're back. That was President Obama, of course, on Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Last night, Jonathan Capehart is an editorial writer for the Washington Post, sometimes writes under his own name. And Matt Taibbi is a contributing editor at one of the hottest magazines in the history of mankind, the Rolling Stone. Let me, Matt, I want you to start with this. I want to say something nice, first of all, about Jay Leno. Jay Leno got this get. It wasn't so hard because obviously the administration said, let's go on the Tonight Show. But I thought it was really wonderful the way he treated it last night. He said, this is going to be a night I always remember as a citizen. Kevin Eubanks, the band leader, wore a suit last night. Everybody dressed up. We were talking about formality and occasion. I thought it was great the way this American show business world adapted to the presence of our chief executive. Your thought as a man of our pop culture?
Well, I think it's important for the president to be accessible at a time like this, and I think it's important that for people, you know, it's great for Jay Leno to bring an issue like this economic crisis to a popular audience at a time when people are trying to, you know, avoid looking at this issue directly in the face. I think it's incredibly important for the president to do it, and it was a good thing.
I agree. I think
it wasn't too cash.
I don't think it was too cash at all. I mean, I think that the president was attempting to do three things: get out of the Washington bubble, get away from us, the Washington media, and the third thing is to talk directly to the American people. I think you said earlier on the show, what was his rate? 20 million people?
They're a huge crowd. They're always trying to figure this out over time, but in terms of the metered markets, it was very high. It was as big as he got when Cheers had its last night and gave everybody at NBC a huge number that night.
Well, and so the president goes and talks directly to the American people, 20 million or so people. I mean, you can't buy that. I mean, and he talks
substance, let's talk politics. Let's change the cosmos, as Norman Maurer would say, to a conservative. When Ronald Reagan was president, he was very effective, Matt and Jonathan, by pretending almost that he wasn't from Washington. He had a job there, but he lived in California. He was forever going back to California and going up in the Rancho de Cello with his wife Nancy and portraying himself as a citizen politician. I don't really run this country. It's too hard to run. I'm one of us. These guys in Washington, these bureaucrats, these liberals, these journalists, these Democrats, they run the country. I'm just sort of our tribune of the people. I come there once in a while and try to keep them honest. Jonathan, can you get away with that? Isn't he, in fact, head of the government now?
He's the head of the government, but I don't
it's not
think
Nancy Pelosi. He's in charge.
But I think he has there's a different motive here. It's not that I don't run Washington. It's I run Washington, and I've got a lot of problems on my plate that I need you to understand. I need to communicate to you directly, not go through the filter of the folks who needle Robert Gibbs every day in the briefing room, but I want to tell you directly what I'm trying to do, what I think about AIG. I'll even take questions about AIG. I'll take the uncomfortable questions so that I can talk to you directly.
Your thoughts, Matt, on that line?
I totally agree. I mean, I think President Obama, he's trying to contrast himself with the Bush administration where, you know, for years and years and years, it was like pulling teeth getting any kind of straight answer from the Bush administration about important issues like the Iraq War. And here President Obama agrees to sit in an unscripted setting and just take questions about anything in the middle of a crisis. That's something that we just haven't seen from a president for the last 8 years.
Right.
You do get the feeling that if one of our major cities was flooded, he'd be aware of it.
He'd be aware of it.
Right.
He'd be aware of it,
and he would comical, but he would be not hiding somewhere in Texas.
Right.
He would be aware because we see him aware.
You mentioned casual before, and what he was doing wasn't casual. Casual was Condoleezza Rice going to see Spamalot during Hurricane Katrina. That was casual.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
You naughty memory person. You've got a memory. Let's talk about this problem with these bonuses. Trillions of dollars mean nothing to people. It's almost like, I know there's a terrible metaphor and I'll pay for it. You know how you walk down the street and you got a dog with you, your dog with you, and that dog sees the other dog. So we like see each other as equals, right? We don't look for, we can't imagine trillionaires, but we can imagine somebody grabbing a bonus who doesn't deserve one. We can't imagine millions really, but we can imagine these guys. You know what I mean? See what I'm saying? Billions, I mean. So I get the feeling like for months we've been talking trillions and billions and nobody understands it, but all of a sudden they hear somebody just grabs some money that I can sort of understand. I can imagine who's going to be a millionaire. This person stole some money. So I think my hunch is this is finally caught. This is nerve endings here. We don't like it.
No, we don't like it, and
we're barking.
It's like yes, we're barking.
You use the dog metaphor.
I think for a lot of people, it's free money. These are people who are getting money for nothing in particular, and then that's the second part. These folks, if they did a good job, that's money for nothing. But these are folks who, by and large, who did a bad job, and they're being rewarded for doing a bad job.
Last thought from you, Matt, buddy, at the end of the week.
I'm sorry, what?
Last thought. Why are we so angry about the bonuses at AIG?
Well,
we weren't mad about the trillions of dollars going to TARP.
And I think it's important to remember that even the $700 billion of TARP, even that is dwarfed by the trillions of dollars that the Fed is lending out right now. And I think people just aren't aware of the magnitude of the problem. This is something they can focus on.
Okay, you're right. One dog can see another dog. I'm sorry, that metaphor will hurt me. Jonathan Capehart, Matt Taibbi, thank you.